Revelation paints a vivid picture of the cities destined to crumble under the beast's dominion. Imagine an elderly man, nearly 2 millennia past, confined to a desolate, rocky island prison, issuing a stark warning about a formidable beast. Prepare to be astonished as we unveil the two nations poised to fall prey to this beast. First, Babylon serves as a metaphor for the ultimate empire that will challenge God's people before Christ's return. But there's more to the story. The historical demise of Babylon unfolded in a remarkably specific manner, establishing a template for John's depiction of the end times Babylon's downfall. Recognizing these parallels unlocks a deeper understanding of the prophecy's precision and its chilling implications. In a single night, the mightiest empire on earth met its end. Does this resonate with you? Because John's vision of end times Babylon portrays a cataclysmic event that transpires in a mere hour. The blueprint has been established. Now, our task is to decipher which modern empire or system aligns with this ancient pattern in John's vision. Now for the million-dollar question, or perhaps I should say, the trillion-dollar question. What exactly was John witnessing when he envisioned Babylon the Great? This has been a subject of intense debate among biblical scholars for centuries, and I'm about to guide you through the 3 primary interpretations. But pay close attention. Regardless of which interpretation you favor, they all converge on the same startling conclusion regarding timing and sequence. Interpretation number 1, a literal rebuilding of Babylon. Certain scholars propose that John foresaw a literal reconstruction of ancient Babylon in present-day Iraq. This isn't as outlandish as it might initially seem. During the 1980s, Saddam Hussein invested vast sums of money in an attempt to rebuild ancient Babylon, envisioning himself as the new Nebuchadnezzar, determined to restore Babylon to its former grandeur. However, his efforts were disrupted by wars and sanctions. But here's where it gets intriguing. John describes Babylon as a hub of global commerce, where the merchants of the earth have grown wealthy from its abundant luxuries. This description aligns perfectly with the potential reality of an oil-rich, rebuilt Babylon. Interpretation number 2, symbolic Rome. Other scholars suggest that John employed Babylon as a code name for Rome. Bear in mind that John penned these words during a period of intense Roman persecution of Christians. Had he explicitly predicted Rome's demise, he would have faced immediate execution. John provides a clue in Revelation 17 verse 9. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Rome was famously built upon 7 hills. Coincidence? Many scholars think not. Rome also fits John's description of Babylon as a persecutor of God's people. During John's lifetime, Rome was literally saturated with the blood of Christian martyrs. But here's where it becomes truly captivating. If John was indeed describing Rome, then we've already witnessed the fulfillment of this prophecy with the collapse of the Roman Empire, which leads us to the third and arguably most compelling interpretation. Interpretation number 3, a future global system. What if John wasn't envisioning a specific city at all? What if he was instead witnessing a global system encompassing economic, political, and religious elements destined to emerge in the end times? Consider John's depiction of Babylon's fall. The merchants of these things, which were made rich by her, shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple, and scarlet, and decked with gold, and precious stones, and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. Revelation 18 verses 15 to 17. In 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. Does this sound like the destruction of a single city? Or does it more closely resemble the collapse of a global economic system? Consider our modern world. If the global financial system were to collapse tomorrow, if stock markets worldwide were to crash, if digital currencies were to become worthless, if international trade were to grind to a halt, how long would it take for these events to unfold? With modern technology and global interconnectedness, it could realistically happen in a single hour. But here's what will likely keep you awake tonight. John doesn't merely describe the fall of Babylon. He also details the reactions of 3 distinct groups: kings, merchants, and sailors. And their responses reveal the very nature of the system that is collapsing. The kings mourn because they've lost their power. The merchants mourn because they've lost their wealth. And the sailors mourn because they've lost their trade routes. This isn't merely the fall of a single city. It's the collapse of a global system that exerts control over politics, economics, and transportation across the globe. And when that system collapses, it paves the way for the second phase of John's sequence to unfold, the judgment described. Now, I'm going to transport you into John's vision and show you precisely how he depicts this collapse. But be forewarned, these aren't the ramblings of an ancient mystic. These are the precise words of a man describing something so profoundly traumatic that the entire world will watch in horror. Here's how John depicts the moment Babylon begins its descent, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Revelation 18 verse 2. Notice the repetition of the phrase is fallen. In both Hebrew and Greek, repetition serves to emphasize absolute certainty. This isn't a possibility or a maybe. This is a divine declaration of an event that will undeniably occur. But here's what's truly chilling. John describes the speed of this collapse. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. Revelation 18 verse 8. One day, not 1 year, not 1 month, but one single day. But it gets even more specific. Listen to this. For in 1 hour is thy judgment come. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. Revelation 18 verses 10 and 17, 19. 3 times John emphasizes 1 hour. In the ancient world, this represented the shortest unit of time used for measuring events. John is describing the most rapid economic collapse in human history. Now, let me introduce you to those who are witnessing this collapse, and let's examine how their reactions illuminate the scope of this judgment. First, the kings of the earth. And the kings of the earth, who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, shall bewail her and lament for her, when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. Revelation 18 verses 9 to 10. The world's political leaders are observing from a distance, hesitant to approach too closely. They aren't attempting to offer assistance or rescue the situation. They're simply watching in utter terror, fully aware that their own power was contingent upon this system. Second, the merchants. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more. Revelation 18 verse 11. John then provides a detailed list of the merchandise they were trading, the merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones, and of pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all fine wood and all manner vessels of ivory, and all manner vessels of most precious wood, and of brass and iron and marble and cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men. Revelation 18 verses 12 to 13. Notice that final phrase, and souls of men. This system wasn't merely trading in commodities, it was trading in human beings. It was treating people as mere merchandise. Third, the sailors and sea traders. And every shipmaster, and all the company in ships and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? Revelation 18 verses 17 to 18. Global transportation and trade come to a complete standstill. Ships laden with cargo remain motionless in the water because there's no longer a market for their goods. But here's the most unsettling aspect of John's vision. He describes the method of destruction. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. Revelation 18 verse 21. Shall be found no more at all. This isn't merely a temporary recession or a market correction. This is the complete and irreversible destruction of a global system. Number 2, Judea, Israel. What I'm about to share with you may seem impossible. God will permit his chosen people in his chosen land to endure the most severe persecution in their 4,000-year history. And according to the prophets, it must unfold precisely in this manner for his ultimate plan to succeed. But before you conclude that God has forsaken Israel, allow me to demonstrate why this trial is, in fact, the final stage in the most extraordinary rescue plan ever conceived. A world leader will emerge, seemingly possessing solutions for every problem. He'll be charismatic, brilliant, and he'll accomplish something deemed impossible. He'll broker a comprehensive peace agreement between Israel and her enemies. Daniel describes this moment, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. Daniel 9 verse 27. In biblical prophecy, a week represents 7 years. Thus, this leader guarantees peace for Israel for a period of 7 years. And for the initial 3.5 years, everything appears to be perfect. Israel is secure. They're prosperous. They might even rebuild their temple and reinstate their ancient sacrificial system. After 2 millennia of persecution, it finally appears that the Jewish people can live in peace. But then, precisely halfway through the 7-year period, everything changes. Daniel continues, and in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate. Daniel 9 verse 27. The very leader who guaranteed Israel's peace will betray his promise. He'll help the Jewish sacrificial system, proclaim himself as God within their temple, and demand that the world worship him. This is what Jesus referred to as the Abomination of Desolation. And when this occurs, Jesus provides very specific instructions to the Jewish people. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. Matthew 24 verses 15 to 18. Notice that Jesus says, flee into the mountains immediately. Don't pack. Don't gather belongings. Don't even return to your house. Just run. Have you ever pondered why so many Christians talk about battling the Antichrist? They speak of standing firm, confronting evil, and engaging in warfare against the beast. But what if I were to tell you something that might deeply challenge your faith? Jesus never actually instructed us to fight him. What Jesus actually said might shock you. It could fundamentally alter your perspective on the end times. 2 Thessalonians 2 verses 3 to 4 reveals his true nature, the man of sin, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God. Reflect on that. He's not simply a flawed leader or a deceptive preacher. He's someone who will deceive nearly the entire world, even some who attend church and believe they are faithful. He'll demand something that no human being should ever request, worship that belongs solely to God, and he'll target those who refuse to bow down to him. Let me be unequivocal, he'll attempt to completely eradicate them. So, what are we supposed to do? What did Jesus actually instruct us to do when this terrifying individual assumes power? That's the question that changes everything. The instruction that's often overlooked. Jesus didn't leave us to speculate. He didn't want us to devise our own strategy. In the midst of describing the most terrifying period in all of history, Jesus issued a clear command. Consider that. The Son of God, the ultimate warrior, instructs his people to flee, not to prepare for battle, not to construct a defense, but to flee immediately. We live in a world that celebrates individuals who stand their ground, fight back, and become heroes. But what if I told you that sometimes the most spiritual course of action is to flee? Now, this point is crucial. Jesus doesn't merely suggest leaving, he speaks with urgency. If you're on your rooftop, don't even go back inside your house. If you're working in the field, leave your coat behind. If you're pregnant or caring for a baby, pray for strength because the journey will be more arduous. If it occurs during winter or on the Sabbath, escape might be nearly impossible. In just a moment, I'll explain why this event, the Abomination of Desolation, prompts Jesus to speak with such conviction. The reason may genuinely surprise you. But first, we must grasp the weight of this powerful warning. We're always taught to pray first, right? But in this instance, Jesus has already issued the command. There's no time to hesitate. And here's the stark truth. Those who pause to seek God's will at that moment might be disobeying Jesus' explicit instruction. While they're praying for guidance, while they're gathering their belongings, while they're bidding farewell, the opportunity to escape will vanish. Now, listen attentively to what Jesus actually says to pray for in verses 20 to 21. But pray that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. Did you notice something? He doesn't say, pray it doesn't happen. He says, pray about when it happens. He assumes that you will obey and flee. The only question is whether the timing will make it easier or more difficult. In a few moments, I'll reveal precisely what this abomination of desolation truly is and why Jesus regards it as the ultimate warning sign. History will provide clarity, and you'll understand why so many well-intentioned Christians might miss it. Some believers will mistakenly believe they're demonstrating bravery by staying to fight. They'll see themselves as David facing Goliath. They'll quote verses about standing firm. They'll urge others to fight back. But in doing so, they'll be disobeying Jesus' clear command. This isn't a test of bravery, it's a test of obedience. Here's a sobering truth that's rarely discussed. Even courage can morph into rebellion when it contravenes God's command. And Jesus never said, "Blessed are those who fight the beast." He said, "But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved." Matthew 24, verse 13. When the time arrives, obedience will outweigh bravery. And faith won't manifest as fighting, it will manifest as trusting God as you flee. Now, I understand what you might be thinking. To some, running may sound like fear, like surrender. But consider this. In the Bible, running away was sometimes the most faithful action one could take. Joseph fled from Potiphar's wife, choosing purity over potential trouble. David fled from King Saul, despite having numerous opportunities to fight and defeat him. Even Jesus, when people attempted to throw him off a cliff in Luke 4, simply walked away. This illustrates a powerful truth that many churches fail to articulate. The goal wasn't to engage in battle. The goal was to fulfill the mission. There's a time to stand strong, and there's a time to run. And during the reign of the Antichrist, Jesus stated unequivocally, "Run." Now, this is where it becomes serious. You'll require wisdom more than ever. Some believers will disregard Jesus' actual words. They'll assert, "We must fight. We cannot back down." And what will they do? They'll arm themselves. They'll resist the system. They'll attempt to combat evil with violence. But have you ever pondered what will become of these well-meaning fighters? Revelation 13 verse 7 provides the sobering answer, "And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them." Let that sink in for a moment. The Antichrist is actually permitted to prevail for a limited time. Those who attempt to fight him with human strength will be crushed. Why would God allow this to occur? The answer may surprise you, because this isn't a battle waged with weapons. It's a spiritual judgment. And the only path to survival is to follow Jesus. We'll delve into that powerful truth shortly. This is where many will be deceived. They'll read about the beast, the mark, the image, and conclude that we must stop this ourselves. But that's not what Jesus instructed. That's not what Revelation teaches. Have you noticed the absence of any passage in Revelation depicting the church rising up and defeating the Antichrist? And here's something that most Bible teachers fail to mention. Only those who practice hearing and heeding God's voice now will be prepared for what's to come. But how do believers actually triumph during this time? Revelation 12 verse 11 reveals a profound truth, "And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death." Note what's absent. There's no mention of fighting with weapons, forming a political movement, or seeking refuge underground. True believers triumph in a radically different manner, through the blood of Jesus and their unwavering testimony.